scary morning or magical midnight, wherever, whenever you may be, across the dimensions or around the vibrations. I'm Tillie Treadwell, and oh, have I got a show for you. Won't you join us on The Weird Walk Home? Hello, friends. I'm Tillie Treadwell, and today I have with me Mr. JC. He is from SasqWatchers. So, JC, I see also that you have with you a guest. Who is that?
That's my mom. We're going to call her CK.
CK. Sounds good to me. So, what or who is JC and SasqWatchers?
So SasqWatchers is a paranormal podcast that we pretty much talk about anything paranormal, anything from Bigfoot, ghosts, aliens, historical cryptids and items like that. We've had quite a few guests on. We have a Facebook group. If you type in SasqWatchers Paranormal Podcast on Facebook, you can join the Facebook group.
Yes.
And we release usually about 2 episodes a week, and it's available on pretty much every podcasting platform and YouTube.
Excellent. And you are a paranormal investigator, is that correct?
I I mean, we could call me that. I've not done any in-person investigations yet. We do have something coming out on a local cryptid here to Northeast Ohio in the next couple of weeks. Is something to look forward to. I guess I'd call myself maybe a paranormal researcher.
Okay.
At this point. So, but investigations are in the future.
Okay.
We have a Bigfoot outing next summer in Pennsylvania that we're looking forward to, and hopefully everybody can come out for that.
Yay, that's going to be awesome. All right, my dear. And your mother, she happens to have a really interesting story for us. Is that true?
That is, my dog's now part of the podcast too.
I see that.
Lucy. Yeah, she does have a story. It's from what, 1968?
Yes.
So I'll let you.
UFO story.
You don't have. You can.
Oh, okay. This is 68, I believe it was. My let me say, hunting. What do I want to say? Deer spotting. Spotting for deer was a big thing back then. So, my dad, my 3 brothers, and I, and the dog decided to go out and spot for deer. And my mom, she should have came, but she stayed home to do the dishes. But anyways, we were out spotting deer or whatever, and we weren't very far from where I lived, or where we lived. And next thing we know, we come around the turn spot, and the light where the gas line runs up the hill or whatever was a UFO, like right there.
Wow.
So we all saw it. There was 5 of us that saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just hovering right there. Everybody got out, and I was afraid. I was probably 7 years old at the time, but and then they're spotting it on it. But it was rotating different. One way at the top part, the bottom part, and it like had glass windows around the whole middle part, flashing different lights and that. But I was afraid, and I didn't want to get out, and I wanted everybody, come on, let's go. But they just stood there with the spotlight on it, But then after a few minutes or so, then it took off. And when I say it took off, it just went, like they tell you, they just go out. But
Wow.
I never talked about it much, because when we got home, my dad said not to talk about it because we didn't want people to think we were crazy.
Yeah.
Even though we weren't crazy, but crazier.
Yeah.
I was probably in my 20s before I even spoke about it to anybody, that because a lot of people think, just because, I understand now that just because you don't see something for yourself doesn't mean it's not true.
Exactly.
Because there's 5 of us in the family that saw the UFO, but somebody will say, oh, those don't exist. Well, I saw one, they do. And so,
especially coming off Roswell was what, about 10 years or so before that. So people were, the government already said that no, this wasn't UFOs, and it's still even in '68, right? There still weren't a whole lot of reports yet. Like some of these things
Yeah.
That's because probably because like us, my dad's like, we don't talk about it, or we could have reported it, obviously,
To who though? Who do you report?
I don't know. Back then, I don't know. No, but it wasn't far from where there was a mathematician in the local town nearby that was rumored to have built a house on his farm property for the aliens, or the outer space or whatever. And actually, where we saw this UFO, it was probably a quarter of a mile from there. So, and nobody could verify ever whether it was true that he built something for him out in his farm, because he had a lot of farmland. But it was a big thing locally that you'd go out there at night and sit and watch and see weird lights and stuff. But that's all it ever became of it or whatever. But
interesting. All right.
So that's my big UFO story.
Well, I love it. Thank you very much for sharing it with me. So about how high off of the ground was it?
Not very high. It was like 50 feet above, just hovering, but we were really close to it because we were like right there, and probably was 100 feet from it, and it was just, that time of your life is just like, just.
So there's absolutely no doubt that it was anything else.
No, that's what it was. So I'm a believer. I'm a definite believer in it because I've seen it for myself.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything since then, but.
Okay, that's fair. Did anyone come home with any kind of strange marks afterwards, or
no?
stopped watching?
We didn't lose time that I know of, So no.
Okay, so it was just a sighting, it seems.
Yeah, pretty close up sighting. Yes.
The dog was barking at
yeah,
right?
the dog. Everybody jumped out but me because I was afraid.
Oh, yeah, I could see why.
Yeah, the men weren't afraid. The men were tough.
But they were tough. That's good though.
Spacemen or women.
Yeah.
I was just concerned because we had a big spotlight because we were actually looking for deer, spotting for deer.
Yeah.
But, you think you see this thing and what are they going to do to you?
Yes,
they were shining the spotlight on it, and I'm thinking, come on, let's.
Oh my goodness!
I was scared. But.
I can definitely empathize with that. That's a unique story, though. I like it. Yeah. Would you like to stick around with us for this next segment, or you're most welcome to if you'd like?
I could.
Okay, maybe you'll have some neat insight that we're not aware of just yet.
She knows about the disembodied voices stuff, so.
How do you know about that?
Because she heard it with me.
Well, I mean, it was through a box fan, and I stop that.
Oh, wait, we might not be to that segment yet.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'll be quiet.
I've had similar experiences reported to me though from other people. Voices coming from the vents, from the air conditioning system or the heating system, a furnace, box fans, everything. I find it fascinating because pareidolia is what they say it is, to see something that's not there and your brain is making a pattern in a visual medium. Is that the same for when you're hearing something, or do they just consider that like an audio?
I'm actually not sure of the technical term. Other than like, I know people have explained it away as like auditory hallucinations.
Right.
But they use pareidolia for Bigfoot sightings. A lot of people are like, "Oh, it's just pareidolia. You're seeing, you're making out the pattern in the woods."
Yeah. But as far as the auditory factor, I would love to know what that is. If people really are hearing it, something coming through, which I do suspect that is at least part of the time truly happening. But I want to know too, what other percentage of the time is it someone mistaking something or their brain picking up a pattern and trying to put pieces together? What do you think though?
So I'm gonna jump a couple 100 years into the past. that
Oh, okay.
I was not a part of, so I didn't experience this. But some of the earliest auditory disembodied voices reports of that I was able to find date back to places in Europe, where we
Mm.
get a lot of stuff like this, uh, from hunters that were venturing out into the woods to hunt. Sometimes in the late evenings when a lot of the animals were most active. So no planes, furnaces,
Mhm.
fans, anything making
Mhm.
noise, and they would hear voices. A lot of times that were either calling for help
Yeah,
or
yeah.
were inviting them to come
Hmm.
further. So these hunters would think, hey, somebody's in need of help, or they would think, hey, there's a town up ahead. Maybe we should stop and, refill whatever we need, get, drink or food, whatever. Well, they'd keep following these voices into the woods and then they go missing and they were never found again.
Right.
And there was multiple occasions and stories of this happening to hunters,
Mhm.
to normal people. They would hear voices
Yes.
that would invite them. So almost like a siren for the mariners, but this was auditory noises on land in the woods, and I'm sure that wasn't just in woods. These stories reported from caves or even from people in their houses as far back as I think the earliest story I found was from the mid 1300s. Um,
Oh.
there was a wife that had heard a voice that she thought was her husband, who had been dead for so many years. So she followed it, and it led her to the edge of town, and that was the last time anybody had seen her. And she never returned back to her village or to her house. So,
Oh.
and that was at late at night. So I think there's a lot of different disembodied voice theories of what they may be. A lot of people believe that children and animals are more susceptible to hearing things, just as they are
Mm.
to seeing things, right? I think there was even a study done just this year in 2023, about it was a child focused research that was studying children hearing things that people couldn't, so voices and sounds that people couldn't hear.
Oh.
And this is like an official study. I mean, I have it pulled up here. I can
Oh, please do.
Yeah, it's from the Sage Journal, and I'll just cover the abstract. I'm not going to read the whole paper.
Yeah, yeah.
But so they believe that the reason that children are able to hear this stuff better is because kids are more committed to like voices and stuff. Like we're trained as kids to respond to our parents or people with authority, things like that. You know what you're taught what a police siren is and a fire siren. So kids are more trained in on
First.
sounds. So also that children are also the assumption that voice equates authenticity. So when they hear voices, they don't sit there and process, is this something I should listen to? I should just listen to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Really what the study did was they had set up some voices in like some rooms and they had them played, and then they had some things where they wouldn't play the voices, and this supposedly was happening in a haunted
Yeah.
house of some sort. I don't know what kind of house, but that was where the study was supposedly done. So the conclusion was that that these enshrined voices, in many cases, children had reported hearing voices that when the voices were not being played by an actual device or person. So it was kind of inconclusive,
Hmm.
but the children did report in this house that they had heard things that were not from devices that the researchers were using.
Wow.
So you can read that on Sage Journal. If you type in disembodied voices in Sage Journal, it should come up. So anyone can go and read that entire study.
Yeah, I need to do that. That sounds something that is perfectly up my alley. All right. CK, is that what we were gonna call her?
Yeah.
Your mama?
Yeah.
Yep.
What do you think about disembodied voices? Do you think that maybe it's like 50-50, someone just hearing something that their brain is putting together, 50-50, I don't know, a real um less physical person or entity, or do you think it's something else, or
I would say they're real, but it's in some other form that we just don't, understand. There's so much out there we don't know exists, or how, somebody on the other side can communicate with us. So that's how I feel that it's real. We just don't know how to communicate at whatever level they're trying to communicate with us.
Yeah. Okay. Well, short and sweet. I like that.
That's sort of like with the box fans.
Well, yeah. So yeah,
Yeah, please.
when we were younger, well, you would have been younger too, obviously. So I've aged, and my mom's been the same age the entire time. No,
Right.
I wish.
So when I was younger, we were upstairs, and we always had a box fan, and we sat on the hallway of the second floor, and throughout the night, you'd hear talking.
Yes.
And or things like you'd think a TV was on, or the radio.
I asked JC to go down and see if the TV was left on, because I could hear it, and it scared me. The 2 or 3 times I would be awakened by voices, and then after a while I was like, oh, it's just the box fan, you know what I mean? But I've Googled that, and there are other people that have heard voices through fans or box fans or fans. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Yes.
And I recall, and I distinctly remember that there wasn't really, you couldn't make out words, right? It sounded like an old radio.
But I think that's what happens though. When I Googled about it, it says that your fan can pick up, because I have that same issue to this day. I have a tabletop fan in my bedroom on top of a chest of drawers, and there's times that I'll hear music coming from it, and it'll wake me up in the middle of the night, and I'm like, oh, it's just that fan, because I'm not afraid about the noise anymore.
Yeah.
I've read that it picks up radio. Your fans can pick up radio frequencies or something. I don't know if that's true or not.
Well,
I don't. It's not even almost recognizable. No, it's just like I can't explain it. It's just sometimes it's just loud enough, but it's just like some kind of melody or something. But I can't never pick up on anything that I've ever heard.
Yeah, I've wondered if the and I'm not sure the scientific terms for this stuff, but the way that the fan creates a pattern, there has to be an electrical field created.
Oh, I'm sure.
Fan, right. So now does that pick up not only? I could see it picking up radio, absolutely. Even now, it wouldn't pick up the new TV transmissions.
Yeah, probably not.
But if it can pick up radio, I mean, I shouldn't say we, but they use, those RF devices and stuff for ghost hunting to pick up. They use electromagnetic devices to pick up ghost voices. So why could, a fan or, I don't know, an air conditioner or something like that? Because I know those voices that I heard were not just the choppiness, of the fans spinning. These were, this was talking. This was like distant. I equate it to like old radio, but like a distant conversation, like in a restaurant. Yes. That's what it sounded like.
But it was loud.
It was loud. Yeah.
It was loud because I physically asked him to please get out or please get down and see if I left the TV on. That's how. And he comes up the steps. He goes, "No, there's no TV on." And I'm thinking, "What the heck?"
Yeah, because you used to think it was Dad coming home from work, turning on the TV or something. Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I've heard similar reports. CK, you may not know. I don't know how much he's told you about me, but I'm a retired professional paranormal investigator and a retired professional paranormal counselor. And I did get a fair number of haunted or trans-dimensional box fans and AC units, the ones that you pop into the windows. Yeah. And they described very similar things as to what the two of you are sharing with me now. And most of the time it seemed like it was harmless, or it was just maybe bleeding through. It wasn't sentient and directed at the people who were experiencing it. So most people were okay if they were just putting on a TV to cover the noise of that and still they were able to use the fan and the AC during the warm and hot summer months, but there were a few cases where it seemed intelligent. And I did advise them, like, hey, how about we get rid of this fan? So I think it's interesting. I think that things can come through in a multitude of ways from these fans themselves. And my working theory is that it is both electricity. So you've got that energy field that they can pick up on and potentially use, whether aware or not. And then it's also a very liminal object, and that attracts a lot of activity in itself, especially because they tend to be more seasonal in their use. And for some reason, that's just a big attracting factor. So I don't know. Those are just a few pieces that maybe I've put together. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I guess I think I'd mentioned to you about the tree theory for the disembodied voices that so maybe this harkens back a little bit to the forests, the people being lost in the forests and not hearing voices, but there had been a theory that the trees were, so back then it was just the trees are talking, like we don't know, the trees are talking to us, you know, that kind of thing. And then it's evolved from then that maybe, you know, certain things in nature act as like a conduit to whatever else is out there, to, you know, to whether it's another realm or to heaven or whatever you know, whatever the afterlife, that the trees, because they're so large and they're so, you know, they act almost as like a radio tower, right? That they can pull in these voices, and so that's a theory. I don't know if I've been in the woods enough to verify whether the trees have talked to me, like kind of like there's not the trees talking like the Lord of the Rings style or anything like that, but that's one of the theories. I mean, again, I go back to like the electromagnetic stuff. I don't see why that would be any different. Obviously, if you can use an RF device, you can use a fan, right? I mean, the fan's going to be a lot more difficult. Like, I'm not going to bring a fan on a ghost hunt with me,
right?
Most likely. And then, you know, there are many hundreds of thousands of stories of people just hearing voices, not necessarily in their head, but actual disembodied voices, no fans, not out in the woods, just people hearing things, talking, people.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Have you ever heard of a man named Gary Arnold?
I have not.
Oh my goodness. This guy, how do I describe him? He's a character. He is a professor who works at a university, and one day he was sitting in the university library, just him and his books at the table and his track phone. Do you know what a track phone is?
Yeah.
Do you remember those?
Yep.
Yeah. So he's not a fan of smartphones. He just has this crusty little track phone. And he suddenly hears, I guess, ringing or something, and he heard a disembodied voice starting to talk with him. And he wound up having a whole relationship with this group of spirits who are apparently always with him. They communicate with him through the track phone, and I think he said that they sometimes just telepathically communicate with him, and they seem to always be with him, and they answer questions with extreme accuracy on command, and he's done studies and whatnot, and they say things like, "You're our favorite." It's kind of it's a little out there, but he seems to have genuine EVPs of this phenomena.
I would hope that if there were any spirits talking to me, that I'd be their favorite too. Like it'd be weird
Right.
if they were talking to me that much and they didn't like me, right?
Yeah.
Also want to know why his phone's crusty, but I guess that's a story for
it was something that he had said in one of his emails, or not emails, I'm sorry, in one of his interviews about it being just really old and, you know.
And crusty.
Yeah. This was a few years ago that he said that. I don't even know if he has the track phone anymore, to be honest with you.
He broke up with the spirits. I'll have to look that up. That is interesting. But I mean, again, like a phone, like that's an electromagnetic frequency.
Exactly.
And all kinds kind of ties back in to that. And you have like the stories of people that have heard like the voices of like their loved ones and stuff. There's one I just was reading about this maybe a month ago, that somebody had a birthday card, and it was one of those ones that you like open and play music. It was from like her grandfather, I think, or maybe great grandfather.
Aww.
And when she opened it, the song "Happy Birthday" would play, but she said that when she would open it, instead of it being just like that generic "Happy Birthday" voice, that the voice would sound closer and closer to like her grandfather singing "Happy Birthday" to her through this card.
Aww.
So
I love that.
Does that work for the cards I send you?
Those cards, and well, you know what? Those cards last forever. Like I can vouch for this. That I have that. I have a card from my graduation that my great grandmother gave me that still works. You know, I graduated from high school in 2008, and it still works. Now she doesn't sing anything to me.
Well,
not yet. But
that's interesting.
But again, another piece of electronic equipment. So maybe there's a connection here. But there are. It's not just in the modern times that people have heard disembodied voices. I'm sure you can go back ages and ages, other cultures. I mostly study European research for European instances, and I don't really do I don't go as far as there's too much. You have to focus on something, right? So a lot of the European stuff was just like people going missing, getting lost in the woods, or disembodied voices in castles, of course. It's a big one. That's, I think there's movies about haunted castles. And are they ghosts? Are they spirits? Are they our loved ones or other people communicating to us from the afterlife? Are they demons or bad spirits or entities trying to trick us and harm us? I don't know. And it's a little inconclusive, right? Because it could be all it could be all the above, right?
Right, or it could be something entirely different. It's hard to say.
Could it be a god? Could it be some kind of sentient being? Could it be aliens? Right? Aliens have used telepathy to communicate with people.
Yes. I have a story that you may enjoy from way back in the day when I was a paranormal wrangler myself. So I was called out with my team to a patch of private woods, and you'd mentioned Northeast Ohio, right? Find it fascinating because I did all of this work over in Ohio. Yep.
Okay.
So,
in Northeast Ohio, or just
all around. But there was a lot, in Northeast Ohio. It did seem pretty active, indeed.
Ohio's actually a pretty big state. I sometimes I look at the map and I'm like, oh, Ohio's pretty big, because like when you think of Ohio, when you Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, or if you're a football fan, Canton, and then that's it. Like nobody thinks. There's a lot of cornfield in there, but I mean, Ohio is a pretty big state. It takes like 6 hours to drive the whole way through the state. On that side, but we're not doing Ohio, so I won't.
No, it's okay.
We could do just an entire show on paranormal Ohio, because there are a lot of things, and I don't want to give away yet what we have a documentary coming up that's about a cryptid based in Northeast Ohio here. You should see that sometime after January 5th. Like, it's gonna depend on how much
oh my goodness
that we do, but we're gonna have two separate versions. There's gonna be a historical version, and then there's gonna be one that leans more into like the actual events that unfolded in that.
Wow.
I'm planning on submitting the one to the Cleveland Historical Society to see if we can get them to recognize that, because it's a legend that a lot of people know, not just here in Northeast Ohio. It had been featured on, if you remember, the Weird US.
Weird
folks,
US.
They had a website, and then they had
I do. Yep. I remember that font that they used to use. I love that. Yep.
It's still on their website.
Is it?
Now their website's not active anymore, and to be honest, I'm not really sure what happened to those two. It's after their was it Destination America or the Travel Channel? Whatever, they had a show that lasted a year. where they went around to like different stuff. But anyways, there's a lot of paranormal stuff just here in Northeast Ohio, like you said. So we have some documentaries planned on coming up. One out towards Mansfield, which is a pretty big one, and then this one here locally, which I got into this stuff when I was in high school at some point, and I'd read about this cryptid, and it wasn't until like a month or two ago when I was talking to my co-host Andrew, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, we said the name of the town. I don't want to say the name of the town because I don't give it away. But I said the name of the town. It clicked in my head. I was like, wait a minute. This place is like 10 minutes from me. Like I can go there. So I found the grave of a doctor that was supposedly involved in this. I have all the locations marked, and I found this doctor's great niece. Still alive, so we're going to try to get her for an interview. She is 93 years old.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm going to hunt her down and see if she'd be willing to talk to us. And I'm going to try to talk to the chief of police for that area, because he has been a police officer there, I think, for 30 years. Just to see if he's ever gotten calls about anything related to this cryptid or not. So.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. That's incredible. I'm thrilled for you. I can't wait to see. And I'll have to have you back on after the documentaries come out so that we can talk more about them, because I'm going to be sure to watch them, and I'm sure that we could do a whole interview about that and Haunted Ohio. So if you're down, Captain, I am.
Yeah, no, Haunted Ohio sounds like a good one.
I agree. Oh my gosh, that reminds me, I'd wanted to tell you this quick story. I was called out to a private patch of woods, and the guy was reporting things like voices in the woods at dawn and dusk and overnight. There were orbs. There were apparently some cryptid sightings. Although they couldn't be sure exactly what they were, they would see the shadows of these things moving in the woods. And it had apparently ticked up dramatically over the past 6 months before they had called us in. And one of the final straws, because the poor landowner was so creeped out, he said that he was taking a walk in his woods one day, and he was in a grove of oak trees, and there were pine trees in this particular area. He said that he saw between a 7-foot and an 8-foot tall muscular Bigfoot walk into a huge oak tree and was absorbed into the trunk of the tree.
So I've with Bigfoot, there's a like a 50-50 thing, like the Bigfoot world, and I'm sure maybe you've already experienced this. There's people on one side or the other. There's the Bigfoot traditionalists who are like, Bigfoot is absolutely a physical, biological being. Stop.
Yeah.
Nothing else. And then there's the other side that say, well, maybe Bigfoot's something from another dimension, or Bigfoot's somehow related to aliens or something, because people have told stories about where the Bigfoots would just disappear.
Yes.
Or they would absorb into a tree, or they would turn into a like an orb, like a ball of light.
Yes.
And would disappear. And we found ourselves actually on the bad side of the traditionalist Bigfoots. I actually got banned. I got banned from a Facebook group for even discussing the topic, and then I was giving it back to them a little bit. I was photoshopping their pictures with tears and stuff and posting it on to them. I was kind of trolling them too. So
you troll. My goodness.
I ended up getting banned from the Facebook group. So if any of those people from that Facebook group are listening, please send me your profile picture so I can use paint and put teardrops on your photo. But they were mad at me, and they were like, I wasn't going to troll them. I was just going to let it go. But they started like personally attacking me. And I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm going to troll you guys a little bit before I get banned. So they were mad because somebody had posted something about that. And I brought up the topic about, what if Bigfoot exists in another realm or another dimension or something, and he's just as surprised as us? Like he has somehow found a way, because we've heard stories of people, who can do lucid dreaming, and I'm sorry for it's on the top of my head, it's on the tip of my tongue. that are able to project themselves into these other dimensions. So why can't a Bigfoot do that?
I agree.
What if a Bigfoot accidentally crosses over and he's just like, I don't know why I'm here either. Leave me alone.
Yeah. Sometimes with some of these stories, I wonder if that's not actually the case. And
it would really, I think it would explain a lot, right? Like,
yeah,
we don't have Bigfoot bodies.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, there's not really a lot of evidence of a Bigfoot outside, you know, pictures, which are always blurry, for the most part. Some videos, which are contested, and just eyewitness evidence, right? When we have stories going back thousands of years of Bigfoot-like creatures, absolutely. We have stories like dragons and stuff like that. So
yes,
are all of these beings actually biological beings, or are they just somehow we cross wires with, you know, another dimension, whatever you want to call it, and they end up here, you know, for a limited time, and then they're forced back to where they came from, huh?
Yeah, it's a good question. What do you think, CK?
Well, I'm a big paranormal caught on camera show person.
Oh, me too. Yes.
Yeah, that's my favorite show. And I watched the show where the guy, he had a gun, he could have shot it, but he said it's got such a human-like face. He said he couldn't shoot it, you know, because, and then he thought maybe he'd get in trouble for, you know,
yes,
shooting. But yeah, he said when he saw its face, he just couldn't shoot it. So that makes me, you know, that's probably why we don't have a physical body of a Bigfoot. Or sometimes they'll say they couldn't move, or they were, you know.
Well,
that's another reason why they couldn't shoot it or get it. So, you know, but
that's a good one. Just like the stories where people encounter aliens where they're frozen and they can't do anything. That's had their Bigfoot stories like that too.
Indeed.
Not even like from a fear standpoint, just that they literally they said they weren't scared. They felt calm, but they couldn't.
Yeah. So
have you heard of Steve Mera by any chance?
Sounds familiar to me. It does.
Okay. He made a whole series and a presentation. I think it was like a 3-hour long presentation all about what he calls Project Doorway. And he goes over a lot of this paranormal activity, and he discusses it from a scientific point of view, down to the nitty-gritty of magnetic anomaly zones and gravity zones.
Yeah, the gravity zones is an interesting topic. I don't know if I'm well versed enough in it to talk about it. It's something I read.
Oh, that's okay.
But yeah, I mean, with the Bigfoot, with any other cryptids and stuff. I mean, I don't know what side you're on as far as like shooting Bigfoot. I'm shooting Bigfoot.
I am against shooting Bigfoot unless Bigfoot is actively attacking someone.
I'm shooting Bigfoot.
I'm not surprised.
If the opportunity presents itself and I'm strapped, Bigfoot's getting the gat.
Why?
We got to prove there's a Bigfoot. Like, I'll apologize to his family or whatever.
maybe that gunshot will go right through him and do nothing to him. Nobody knows, because I'm not saying anybody attempted to shoot him, but you know.
Well, I'm with your mama on this one. I hope that Bigfoot makes it through the gunshots on that one. Please don't shoot Bigfoot. I understand you want to prove he's real, but please don't shoot Bigfoot.
Well, I would make use of the meat.
Okay, I mean,
no.
I'm not gonna go to waste. We'll have a restaurant.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Well, you know what? I mean, predation is kind of the way of things here. So if you're gonna make use of the meat, I mean,
if Bigfoot doesn't want, Bigfoot should be strapped too, right? He has a Second Amendment right to carry.
does he? I thought that the constitutional rights only applied to human people.
Does it say that in the Constitution? Does it say humans only?
I
don't know.
I don't think it does. It
It
says
says peoples.
people. Yeah,
Do we consider Bigfoot a peoples?
exactly. What is personhood here? I consider him a people's.
Well,
I
there's
don't know.
nothing stopping him from caring. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
This went a weird direction.
It did. It absolutely did. I like it, to be
I'm going
honest.
to arm the Bigfoot and have a Bigfoot army.
Hey, stranger things apparently have been done. Like there was the one time that the Australian, I think it was the army, they got into a war with the ostriches.
The emus, yeah.
Or the emus, yes, thank you.
Yeah,
So you
'cause
heard
the
about
emu
that.
were- yeah.
Oh my God.
The emus actually killed people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does your mama know about that?
No.
Oh,
Yeah, there
I'll have
was
to Google that.
there was like way too many emus in this part of Australia, and they're like, we need to get rid of them. So they sent the military in to clear out the emus, and somehow it turned into like a war with the
goodness.
emus.
Yeah.
Which are like ostriches, right? Yeah.
Right.
I mean, obviously the military won, but like there were casualties. of
right.
People getting killed by by
Yeah, they're a
emus.
strong animal.
Mhm.
So imagine if those emus were strapped.
Exactly. And I don't know, this for me is a massive Mandela effect. So last year I was researching interesting historical facts, and I came across the assertion that people can and do ride ostriches. Did you know this?
Yes.
Blew my mind. I had never heard of this growing up until just this past year, and I found a bunch of apparent evidence for it. I was like, wow, this really is a dream world.
Yeah, no, I think I've learned. Probably something I found out as an adult, but yeah, you can
Yeah.
ride. I mean, good luck taming an ostrich because they're pretty mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can. People have, and they probably rode emus too, right? I mean, if we're going to war with them, we're capturing some and using them like horses.
Probably. Wow, this has been quite the discussion.
It's been a thing. It's been all over the place. So I really haven't had many.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna have to dig deep here, but I think this is the weirdest one. So I don't know if I ever told you about this, but it happened when I first moved to this house here in Ohio.
Oh.
I had a dog named Luke, and he went through a year-long battle with cancer, and then had passed away. 2020, at the very beginning of 2022. But anyways, he was still alive when I was hearing this. But there were times I would wake up throughout the night. And I don't know if we want to call this. It's not sleep paralysis because I couldn't move.
Uh-huh.
But I would wake up with like the worst feeling of dread, and I could hear what sounded like Luke barking in the basement, like his that baroo, because he was a beagle, so he'd be like, "Rrr," like
Oh.
and I would hear it coming from the basement. So, and I knew for a fact, like Luke wouldn't be here; he'd be back with you or something. So I would get up out of bed, and I'm talking like 3 a.m, and I'd walk out down the hallway here. My bedroom's right there. I'd walk down the hallway, out to the kitchen to where I have a door that some steps go down to the side and then outside, and then they go down to the basement from there. And I'd get to the edge of the steps and it would stop. And it wasn't like a dream. This was like me hearing it. And I'm like, is there a dog injured outside? Or, what is this? But was coming from my basement. And I never did really. It stopped after he had passed away. I've not heard it since. And I didn't hear it every night or like every week or every month. It would be like maybe twice a year or something, but I never figured out disembodied voices.
Yeah, disembodied voices.
But I never figured it out because again, I said it sounded like Luke, but obviously I knew it wasn't Luke. But there was something strange about it. So like, was something inviting me into the basement? I've not had any.
I was about to say that I'm very happy that you did not go into the basement to investigate.
I knew at the time that there could not be a dog in my basement. Like the chances I just hit my dog actually. The chances of there being a dog in my basement were about 0.001%, unless one snuck in, but there's no, I would have known. But I don't know, like the basement doesn't give me I don't get bad vibes in the basement here like I did back at the house. I don't know. My old house I lived in, I don't know. Yeah, it always gave me bad vibes. I turned the lights off. It's one of the things where you run up the steps as fast as you can.
Yeah.
I don't get those here.
Sometimes
Like
there's
I can go
bad
down in the,
vibes.
yeah, no, I can go down in the basement here with the lights off, and even after these episodes, and not like it doesn't bother me. I don't get bad vibes, so I don't know, like maybe a premonition kind of thing, maybe that he was gonna have issues. I don't know. That's the weirdest thing that's happened to me in a long time. Other than it's when I lived back in Pennsylvania, and I always equated this to a Mothman kind of sighting. I don't think it was Mothman. I don't know what it was. I was coming home late at night one night, and there were some train tracks. I forget the name of the road, but you go down past the house and turn right, which nobody will know where I'm talking about. And if you do, stop following me. But I come to this train tracks, and you have to slow down, obviously, to go to these train tracks. So you rip the underside of your car apart. And I stopped, and I had that. It was pouring rain, by the way. So I slowed down to go across these train tracks, and my eyes just kind of glanced up where the lights hit, and they have like the train track sign with the X and the two lights where the arm goes down. There was something sitting on top of that.
Really?
I don't know what it was. My brain immediately thought an owl, but it was not an owl.
Oh, how do you know?
I could see it because my lights had lit it up enough that its eyes were reflecting from my high beams, but it was not I could make it out enough that it was definitely not an owl. I don't know what it was, but it was for sure not an owl. Like I've seen owls, I've seen like giant owls too.
Yeah.
It was not an owl.
Yeah.
The closest that I don't even remember who I ever told all this story to, because it's like one of those things I went home and went to sleep and then didn't think about it for like a long time.
Go figure.
Yeah. Oh, I kind of write it off. I'm like, whatever. But then I'd start thinking about it again. The closest I could put it as a representation to anything would be like a pterodactyl.
Oh my.
So I started to think in my head, like, what's close that would look like that? Like a crane, maybe, but there would not be any cranes in Pennsylvania, especially at that time of the year, because I think it was like late fall. There wouldn't be a crane sitting on top of a train track light.
I don't think that they would be there. That's interesting.
Don't know what it was. The not very exciting stories. I don't know. Maybe if I've had other paranormal events too, I've just ignored them.
It could be, but no, I think that the ones you've shared have been fascinating, and your mother's experience too. And I so appreciate that. I have experienced tons of paranormal activity and non-human people encounters for pretty much my whole life, and I've had some really strange experiences. So for me, it's attractive and charming to hear your tamer experiences for a while. I don't think they're boring at all.
Well, I've been researching a lot of this stuff again since I was interested in like middle school, high school. And I think I did that. And even starting like this podcast with Drew, Drew's had some more experiences, and there are definitely people that are more tuned into that stuff like yourself, right? But the reason I really got into this was hoping that, by proxy, once we start actually getting out in the field and that maybe I would see something or experience something, because like everybody has these great and grand stories, and then I'm just like, well, I read about them, but they don't happen to me. But maybe that's a blessing that they don't happen to me, because sometimes people go crazy over that kind of stuff. So
yeah, you don't want to invite anything in,
right? Well, I'm
not be able to get.
It
might follow you home, is what I want to say.
You tell us,
I'm very cautious about it too, because like psychics are great and stuff, but I'm gonna be honest, and this is nothing against psychics or anything like that, but I don't want a psychic reading. I don't want to play with a Ouija board. I don't want to do that kind of stuff, because like that's the stories where you hear people do get stuff. Now, that's not always saying that it's possible, right? So I'm just gonna be like, you know what? I'll watch you do it from a distance.
Yes.
And then I'm going to go to church.
And then I'm gonna shoot Bigfoot.
On the way to church, I'm gonna shoot Bigfoot.
Oh my God.
When you said Ouija board, we as kids, I had a Ouija board story. I forgot
Oh.
about that.
Oh, what happened?
Because we were playing with the Ouija board upstairs, you know, asking her questions and doing stuff, you know, back in the 70s, and we were in probably 7th, 8th grade or something. And then
Of course.
we heard this loud crash in, like, down in the kitchen that sounded just like dishes had fallen out of the cupboard. Well,
Oh.
we went down there, nothing. And I tell you what, we hightailed it up the hill to my friend's grandmother lived there, because we were scared. I mean, that was it. Was no more Ouija board stuff. So we don't know what that was all about, but there was three of us that got pretty scared. So I'm one of those people. I don't think you should mess around with the Ouija board. And I have been to a psychic. I've been to a psychic twice.
I'd say if you truly know what you're doing, that would obviously alleviate some of the harm. But I've even read stories about like professional using Ouija boards and having stuff attached to them.
Yes. And I do agree with what you were saying about there being like nothing against psychics, but if you get a reading, you do in some ways open up that door, because there are certain modes of invitation that non-human people seem to pay extra attention to. And when someone is fresh and new, in my understanding, and they're cracking open that psychic door for the first time via the Ouija board or getting a reading or like making an offering, a food offering or something to a non-human person, it seems to draw them in more because it's a fresh opportunity. So
you knock it off.
I went to psychic twice, and she was real big with using cards. Tarot cards, I used tarot cards. She used regular
like
playing cards. Yes, and they were her grandmother's playing cards. She used regular playing cards.
I've not heard that. Is that a thing?
It is a thing, yeah. It's just much less common these days anyways. So I do psychic work occasionally. I used to do a lot of energy healing for people and a lot of tarot work and whatnot. And I got out of it because people seemed like they were not able to adopt the advice appropriately. They were just coming kind of back to me to emotionally dump their problems onto me instead of working with me for solutions. And I don't like that. I'm a very solutions oriented person. So I quit partly for that. But then another reason, it just seemed like the more that I was working with a lot of people, the more paranormal experiences that they were having, and they weren't actually raising their vibration. So it just seemed like more people were having non-human people coming in. They felt invited because that vibration now had an open doorway of sorts. This is just my understanding and experience, though. I could be wrong also. I could be crazy. I'm just a chick in a headband in front of my Christmas tree. Don't listen to me, probably. So, yeah.
Right. I've heard that those are all like portals, like the Ouija board and going to psychics and that. Yes.
Oh, yeah. And so when I do work now, I'm very careful who I work with, why I work with them, and I have a long vetting process that I put someone through before I will even consider pulling out my cards or giving them any type of reading or advice, because I try to minimize the opportunity and harm as much as possible, because the average human being doesn't know all of the things that we're talking about, and they don't understand the code of invitation, and that's not necessarily their fault, if that makes sense.
Hey, what's the story about great grandma levitating on her bed?
I was telling JC.
I just heard about this at dinner.
I said, well, my grandmother had told me one time that she had levitated above her bed, and that's all I know about it.
Oh no, we all float down here.
And that there was a picture taken back 2008 or something of 5 generations: my grandmother, my mother, my brother, and when the picture was developed, I couldn't believe how many orbs was on that picture. But the house was actually moved from another area down in the same area, but it was probably 100-year-old house, but it was moved, and I suppose that's why all the orbs were in the picture. But you know, I'm interested in orbs. I'm interested in all that paranormal stuff and that, but that's probably how he got interested in it.
Interesting. Well, I mean, you've got a relative who's floating off of the bed, and you've got you yourself playing with Ouija boards. It seems to be that you have a
UFOs.
UFOs, yes.
Yeah, UFO. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It does seem to follow bloodlines, I will say.
Yeah, it's all very interesting. It's a very interesting.
CK, would you be afraid to meet someone who's a non-human person?
I don't know. I've thought about that. If I saw a cryptid or something, oh my, I don't know. I wouldn't want to meet Bigfoot either, you know. But,
Of course.
you know.
Aw.
No, I don't think I would like to, honestly.
I think that's fair. What about you, JC? Would you ever be up to shake hands with ET?
I'm gonna shoot him.
For what? To eat them? To share?
Yeah, you gotta eat him.
I'm shooting him. He's invading my planet. We have the responsibility as human beings to defend our planet.
All right. So you don't think that there's any way that they could harmonize and build healthy relationships with human people?
Probably, but then there's people like me that won't allow that to happen.
Oh, see, like I've had wonderful relationships with non-human people, and I still do to this day. I feel a little sad hearing you say stuff like that.
Oh, I'm just joking. I'm not gonna shoot.
Oh, okay, cool.
No,
it'd be great, but like, if you're gonna show yourself, let's go. Let's do it. Come on down. And that, well, I even sometimes wonder myself, are they actually extraterrestrials, or are they here originally from here?
That's my understanding. That's what they've all told me, is that they've been here even longer than human people, and that they are usually actually afraid of human people, or they dislike them for the violence and whatnot that human people seem to naturally possess. So they do tend to hide or manipulate in order to stay safe.
It's I forget the name of the theory, but it's that they actually live within the planet, whether that be underwater or in the ocean, because people have seen that's where UFOs, a lot of times they rise up from the water, or things like that. To be honest with you, that's a lot easier for me to digest than there are people traveling. Not to say that aliens can't travel between dimensions or billions of light years, but it's a lot easier to digest that they're already here and they've been here.
I hear you on that. I agree. I don't know, the nuts and bolts theory doesn't really seem to make sense to me, especially with what I've seen over all the years. When I was a toddler, I saw from my grandma's kitchen window a gathering of what looked to be at first lights, but then they would shift back and forth between being little glowing lights to being tiny humanoid type people, and then some of them were animals dressed up in fancy human clothes. It was the strangest thing ever, even to this day. But they were very small, and they were dancing in her garden in a circle with each other, and they kept going back and forth between those two forms. And it had looked to me at the time as though they rose up from out of the ground.
Almost, is that gnomes that are able to trick people into thinking that they're animals or inanimate objects? Or am I thinking of fairies?
Technically, all of them.
Because that almost, maybe that's what alien, I don't know. I mean, it's not like we don't really have like a devoted science to these things, because obviously we can't study. It's very difficult to study them other than people's experiences, right?
Yes.
We don't have any captured gnomes or Bigfoots or aliens or anything like that. So everything's just
what we see on video.
It's what we see on video. It's second-hand accounts, people's readings or dreams or whatever. Is basically that's the science that we have. So and it's been that way for ever, right? We have the same stories about a lot of these creatures, cryptids, ghosts, dating back to Mesopotamia, to the first written human accounts. So maybe we'll never I don't know if we'll ever have anything. Like, am I gonna shake hands with a gnome before I die? Probably not.
I don't know.
But if I do, I'll make sure, Tillie, that you're the first podcast that I come on to talk about my gnome meeting.
And you won't shoot him.
I'm not, no, that wouldn't be fair. I could probably football punt it instead.
Well, you have a great sense of humor. I like that. Oh my goodness. I think that you might like to read the book The Deception of Gods and Men by, who was it? Brian Allen and Barry Fitzgerald. So Barry Fitzgerald is a close colleague of Steve Mara's, and together these gentlemen discovered that a lot of these non-human people seem to even pose perhaps as gods and saints and that type of thing. And the whole book seems to break down a lot of these patterns. And I've noticed them too. Even my non-human connections over the years have told me very similar things, that they will allow human people to see what they want to see in order to achieve a certain storyline, or to test the human person to see how they'd react, to having essentially like a blank palette as a test. And it would be like a reflection of the human being's psyche and subconscious. So I think that there's a lot of fertility here for spiritual growth and for growth as a family overall, human and non-human, but then also for scientific understanding. And I don't know, I think that you might like that book. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I might like that book.
I pulled it
You
up on
read it,
Amazon.
I'll read it too. Sounds interesting.
I get no money from recommending that book, by the way. This is not sponsored. I just think you guys would really like it.
Yeah, no, I pulled it up here on Amazon. So.
Okay. Yeah. I'd like to read
Check it out. I read a lot, so.
Yes.
Things. Cool.
Yeah. All right, my friends. So technically we are at the hour and 5-minute mark. Would you like to go a little bit longer, or would you like to wrap up, or?
Doesn't matter to me.
Doesn't matter to you?
I guess that's not a good answer, but.
I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to go. I'm going to wrap up.
She's close, getting her close to her bed.
No.
Okay.
30 already.
Yeah.
He's right.
Well, CK, would you mind sticking around for like 3 minutes while we close out the show?
Sure. Yep.
Awesome. That way you can say goodbye and whatnot.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, 3, 2, 1. All right, everyone. That is all for tonight. I would like to say thank you so very much to you, JC, for joining me tonight. It has been an absolute pleasure. And as well, CK, what a delight. What a surprise. Thank you.
Thank you. It was very interesting.
Yes, thank you so much, Tillie.
I'm glad that you thought so, and I hope to see you again, CK, and you, JC. And for anyone who is interested, JC, could you please tell us where we can find you online?
Yeah. So on Facebook, SasqWatchers Paranormal Podcast, you can join our group on there. SasqWatchers Paranormal Podcast on all, I mean, maybe I shouldn't say all, but all of the popular podcasting apps, and then SasqWatchers Paranormal Podcast on YouTube.
Excellent. And I do believe that is all. I hope that everyone has enjoyed the show. We will see you very soon. Happy holidays, and we wish you all a very happy new year from the Weird Walk Home. Until next time, my friends, merry morning or magical midnight.